Hey guys, what do you think of these new glasses? They're kind of blue, kind of dark. I'm not so sure. Well, anyway, I could see right now. I found these. They were only like $10 or $15. So I got paid today. So I did do a project. Actually, it was a painting. So me and the gallery are really happy. You know, and so is the woman the family who got my painting. It was really nice. Hey, listen, I think I forgot to describe that the red dragon that we were talking about in my last video. The one that stood up and was staring the woman in her face, just ready for her to give birth so he could eat it and stuff like that. Well, what happens is I tell it at the end of the story. I tell you about what's coming, that what is rose up. You know, this would be for the fourth chapter. Or would it be the fourth chapter? It would be 13. It'd be the 13th chapter. It starts off with it describing this beast, and this beast rose up, and it had all those heads, 7 heads, and it had 10 horns, and each one of the heads had a crown on it. So that is actually a representation of the beast. It's also here in the when it reared up with this woman. See, I just told you it was a red dragon. But it has 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 crowns upon its heads. So there's duality when there's five duality would be our senses when they're on the good side and senses when they're on the bad side. And of course, when we're right down the middle, right now, then we could be either one, because it's really that we're working with the best that we can on our higher side. So these brethren is what we're talking about, representing our skin. And later on we find out that the brethren actually are representing, these particular entities or energies in the sky that we know as the Mazzaroth, the zodiac, the different signs of the zodiac, and what their influences are on you. So, and I have to believe in some of these things, because I've always been in the Aries since I can remember, and I've always loved who I am, and I've always liked that there was the bad side of me, and I've worked on every one of them all my life. I really have, except maybe there's this one where I, don't give someone a lot of time to talk. If they're going in like a stupid direction or something like that, I'm like totally cut off. I'm totally like, I'm just waiting for them to shut up, so we could talk about something more important or something better. But I wanted to go over this this number system again, just for the hell of it. All right. Only because there may be some new people that want to go through this, but also I wanted to show you that it actually does come. And whenever we read it the first time, I'm not so sure I had it all right. Remember, I'm kind of, I'm practicing. I just, I know if you have a particular slant in mind and you really want this to to sound correctly, I think you could probably make it sound the way. I mean, I'm not second guessing myself, but I just learned how to read it a little better. After some time, it seems as if now it gets a little easier. And so, and what I did is I actually separated it up. So, if you were to go with the number system, and this is the beginning. In the beginning, when man created when God created all these different things, this is giving you the number system. It's the first thing, and it teaches us this really, now that, with my little added thoughts, I look at it, I said, because I didn't really understand that. I guess I didn't know it before, but now, this time, I do know it. So very quickly, we'll say like the one system, what is going to represent one is generally, the very first line, and it's numbered. That has 1 on it. That's the idea, is that it's the beginning. All right. And so here we have beginning. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. This is the right and the left sides of our mind. And later on, you'll find out that this is what he did in their image. So we already get the idea of the Elohim, and that he's made man before later on when they start talking about creating Adam himself. All right. So the way it may be, one may be the physical Adam, and one might be the the other one. The more the one be the astral plane, and one would be the one that would go up and talk. The more spiritual one. All right. Remember, we're in twos. So Earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And this is number 3. And God said, "Let there be light." So somehow or another, that would be 3. So we have the earth and the heaven, and now we have a little bit of light. He saw the light, saw it was good. God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and darkness He called night. And the evening and morning were of the first day. So a lot of times when they just say in these books that it takes one day to do this, so or next day I'm going to do this, it's all about this day, this business of building, because this is building you. This is not building the world around us. All right. On five of that last one, it was God called the day night, the night dark, and the evening. So this was 5 would be like the world. So this began. This is our little world now. Our little world that we talk about. All right. Now 2 starts, and it starts at the number 6 plane, but also on number 6 in reality. What it's showing here, it says, "And let there be a firmament in the midst of the water, and let it divide the waters from waters." Now this 6 becomes the 6th chakra. This is that dividing line. This is when you come up to the edge of the castle. This is what we're about to go in, or come to the window's edge of the next chakra, which would be the 7th chakra. So what it is this is the one that's going to divide the waters from waters, because waters is when this guy is standing on the water side, that actually is representing the truth, and this is a spiritual side. And what is on the land is not the truth, so that's the male side or the matter side, and or let's just say it belongs to the lower conscious. That's the split here. All right. That's why he moved over the waters. That's his favorite spot. That's his favorite haven. And of course, water means truth, and fish and things like that are in there, are individual truths. And when the shepherd comes a-knocking, it's always the girls that come out to draw the water for the shepherd and for his flock. So here's more 2s. 2 is number 6, 7, and 8. And God made the firmament, separated what was above and what was below. All right. And called the firmament heaven, and evening. In the morning, well, it was the evening and morning, and that was the 2nd day. So what He creates becomes number 2. 3 goes on. 3 is number 9. 10, 11, 12, and 13. And we know that that's 9, and then we start over with 1 through 3. All right, so this is going to be an easy one. So number 3 should be the joining of all of these things together. All right. So 9 was the water to be gathered. He commanded the water to be gathered in one place. Let the dry land appear, and it was so. The dry land, earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called the seas. So there's your 2. And then he says to bring forth grass, herb, yielding seed, fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. 12 would wind up being 3. 12 would say, and thus there was grass, and there was the yielding of the seed, and there was yielding of the first of his kind, and there was of itself from earth, and of all, and so, and God said it was good. Evening and morning fell, and this was the third day, and it ended with 4. So these are these different worlds too as we're going. 4 becomes worlds. All right. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. So it'd be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Signs would be put in the firmament, dividing the night from the day, for seasons, for signs, for days, and for years. There's your 4. And let them be for lights in the firmament and heaven to give light upon earth. And it was so. 2 great lights, greater for the day, lesser for the night. That's your sun and your moon. Get the firmament and the light to earth. He put them in the firmament to bring light to earth, to rule over the day and to rule over the night, divided from the darkness. God saw this was good. Evening and morning again, and this was the 4th day. So the idea is 4 is always you're going to get the world, and when you get the world, you get a north, east, south, and west, and those happen to go with different. Your intellect is the left side, and it's black. That's why everything was all black, I think, is how this is working right now, because that's the color black. All right, the lower mind, the lower part of us is the south. This is our physical side. The northern part is our emotional side, and then when we finally break through to the east, which one is the east? Right. I guess this would be right. I get it always mixed up with my dyslexia. But anyways, we're trying to get to the right side, which is the throne of God and all these things, the right hemisphere of the brain, and is the spiritual side, which is white. 4, and so anything that you'll see that they're traveling through something, a lot of soul journeying going on during this time, on the 4. 4 represents the world and our state of mind. 5 is going to be representing our bodies. 5 is the skin. 5 goes on for a long time, and it winds up into 6 somehow. Bring forth from the waters the moving creatures that have life, fowl and that fly through the air, and upon between the firmament of heaven, whales and fowls, to be fruitful and to multiply. Evening and morning of the 5th day. Oh, this was it. This is as far as 5 goes. So 5 is supposed to represent the skin. Bring forth from the waters every moving creature that have to be on earth, and also on the earth, and open the firmament of the heavens, whales and fowls, fruitful things. Just a wonderful thing. This is what 5 is doing. Bring forth from the waters. So that is to bring forth from the waters is to be drawn out. This is a Moses particular thing, to be drawn out of the water. This is where we have just gone under with these with this 4. We're changing our world right now. Where idea that they're introducing this water and being pulled out of the water. That's the second phase of consciousness. It's very interesting. And so that was of the 5th day. So let's see here. 5, 6 is coming up here. 6 is let the earth. This is 6 is whenever we're up there gathering together and getting ready for the onslaught of 7. So this is number 6. All right. Let the earth bring forth after all its kind cattle and creepy things, and God made the beasts of the air. So let me back up real fast. 5 says to bring forth from the waters the moving creature that hath life, and the fowl that flies through the air. And this is the idea of mixing water and the air. This is the what's coming up from the ground or from the water and from the air. This is us going going into some kind of a meditation. All right, second phase of consciousness. this will wind up bringing from the left side of us is let the earth bring forth after all of its kind cattle and creepy things. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and all the creepy things within these things. He created man in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over fish, over the fowl, over the cattle, over the earth, and over creepy things. This is our skin. Have dominion over yourself. God made man in his own image. Male and female created he them. Bless them. Be fruitful and multiply. Subdue it. Have dominion over the fish and the fowl. And then I've given you everything. I've given you herb seeds. I've given you a fruit-bearing tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of earth, fowl, and all that creepeth, the green herbs for meat. And God saw all these things and said it was a good thing, and said this was the sixth day. So this is the gathering of everything. This is everyone's coming together. Everyone is being, accounted for. All right. This is gathering at the sixth. This is, maybe this is because there's no more gathering at the river. This is all, you've taken control over all of these senses. And of course, on the seventh doesn't show up until chapter 2. Chapter 2 is the idea that, now it's what he's made. And that's what the number 2 means, right? But we'll read the first couple of it. Said, heaven and earth are finished. Number 2 is the Sabbath. The day of God's ended. This is when his work is done. All right? This is the rest. This is where when you finally make there to the number 7, that it is about rest. All right? Then you get on to number 8. We don't have many more of this thing, but what happens is the 8 is you have been, thanks for doing this. 8 is your gifts. Generally, people are a little drunk, naked at this time. There's nothing between them and the Lord. Lot is having sex with his 2 daughters. He's drunk off the wine. Moses, I'm not sure what Moses is doing just yet. He's just unable to be seen. His face is white. He's like this person that you wind up, that angel with the face of white. That's that idea. It's just that, you can't look upon him, and he has changed. He was changed. And so, it was like and besides the idea of Moses is a spirit. Moses is just something that wasn't on the physical side. His brother Aaron represents the physical side, whereas Moses represents the east side. And the east that's always invisible. All these stories are about the invisible. Fish, fowl, cattle, earth, creepy things. These are what was entered into the boat. This is those things that we put into, that we all gathered together. Remember this with Noah? He winds up at the top of his mountain, drunk and naked, and his brother backs in on him. He's, oh my God, I can't see my father naked. Oh my gosh, So you'll see it's the same thing going on, and you'll find it with 6, 7, 8. This was number 8. So you'll just see that those number systems will help you if you want to pretend that you were, like you could read ahead of time. You say someone's going to say, let's read something. Let's say chapter 25 verse 2. You could say 25 verse 2, so it's 5, 6, 7. So 7 and 2. So, that might be that's kind of hard. But if it's chapter 7, it's going to be a whole mess of, a whole hell lot of comeuppance going on. Maybe we should do it. Maybe we should look for a chapter 7 and see what happens in that chapter 7, because that's when, a whole lot of shit's going on. That's where war shows up. We should just go through and rewrite all the 7s every time you find a 7. Find the 6. Every time you find a 6, see how many times even comes out in there. So you'll know that when you're reading that, you say, I bet there's a word even in there. And then look it up and look, oh, wow, and they did find something, or, 2, hey, there's something grasped, there's something growing, there's something being made there, something is being joined. You're going to have 2 conscious things being joined together in that one, and then, but that's how you can say, I know what that's going to be. Because you know these numbers. All right, so let's see. 8 was completion. You think about going, the figure 8. It's about control. Some people think it's a negative number, but control over someone could very well be an 8. It's just being used in a different fashion, maybe on a negative side. But these stories have nothing to do with that. The outside's trying to control you, the 8. But the inside is trying to let you control yourself, set you free from all these other things, and that you're in control of yourself. So that becomes the new you, which is 9. 9 is the idea of the conscious itself. Consciousness is in duality, and it's either the good side or the bad side. And so if you want to, you just go read number 9s in all of these stories, and you'll see whether or not that particular part is going to be a good thing or a bad thing. Because 9 will tell you that God is with you and God is in charge and there's no more robbers in the house, and when they try to come in and get in, they're scared off, they'll never come back again, type of thing, Or, you're in a place where, you have had enough, you've had a fill of God, and you're going to go and kill him. You're going to get rid of that side, And so you'll see that they'll have maybe marrying of wives, something about taking on, things lower than the higher things. You'll be able to tell. You'll be able to tell by reading it whether it's a positive sign or a negative sign. But so when it comes down to like numbers 10 and 11, I'm not so sure. The idea is that when you add the 2 together, you'll get this idea. But it also could mean feast. 10 comes into being, good gorging going down. But it could be like, describing, because 10 is 1, it could be describing the gorge. That would be like, let's now talk about, that could show up on 3, because 3 is, when they all come together, we're all one big family. And one of the stories, they didn't want to go to bed. They just loved that everyone was together in one place, and they just wanted to party until nighttime. They just ran around in the streets having a great old time. All right, now that was represented in one of our last stories. This idea that when the darkness came up, and this fight, this war ensued, they just let the dead people fall where they are. And of course, when this 8 showed up, it wound up being this big party. And they're having a great time with all these dead people laying around. And of course, in the midst of all of that, there was the kings and the queens, the 4s and the 20s. This is the world around. Each one of those seasons has its master. Each one of those north, east, south, west. Judah sits at the east, he pitches his tent. The Levites, they have the east, they have the west side sewed up. So you would see that these are places where this is the lost tribe of Israel, this is Jacob's children, and this is the zodiac, and they all have their strong sides, they have their weak sides, they have their positives and their negatives, and they actually are in 3s. The idea of there being deacons, the idea is each one of our signs has when we come into it, let's talk about it more like this. We're coming out of one sign, and it's like an airplane coming in for a touchdown. All right? And then when it's in the change to the changeover, that's the cusp, and now it's running up. We've got this upward trend, as if we were going up, we were accelerating upwards. And then there's the coast, which is 2. The second phase of this would be the coast, and it's just a constant coast. And then there's this decline, and that's the 3rd phase before we go in and change into the next group. And so, this is how you get the difference between all, like I could run into another Aries, but he's a little further down the road, or she's a little earlier, or there's a cusp of my younger sister. She's a Taurus and Aries cusp. She's right on the 20th. And so you would see that that's how they judge the signs, because each one of us has a little difference. Everything is so different about all of us. But where you are particularly born, this is how they find your spot. But there's 3 deacons in each one, so there you get this 21. And they all bow towards the center. They all bow towards the sun, which is you. We're their influence. We have these 12 cranial nerves that are attached in our brain, just these little electrical conduits that just seem to come to nowhere. Same thing going around our solar plexus. So we have a duality in these things. We can either work the lower aspects of what's around us, or we can switch in that to fix them and work from the top ones, or do our best with it as we move along, because those are part of our works, that we want to be able to be even, get all of these different systems inside of us in union together, so that we can be this one. All right. So it's just some wonderful little things. I just thought it would be really cool to show you that. That the number system is a part of that. And then what we get from Moses when he comes down, he's already been shown what to do, that his power is in his right hand, and that all he has to do is take his staff and toss it on the ground, and it turns into this serpent, and it gobbles things up. Gobbles up the lower conscious. This is the feast. That's that idea of letting that higher conscious down, and it just eats the shit out of all this bad stuff that's in us. It's just thirsty for it, just absolutely thirsty for it. And in our world, our soul is absolutely thirsty and just dying and craving for food, for fish food, for truth. And it just loves it so much, but it also loves this. But once it gets the best of both worlds, it's one happy guy, and so will you be if you ever get up in there. And remember, you want to be like that neighbor where you're constantly knocking, wanting something, always borrowing from your neighbor. Knock, 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 knock. Tell him, just be there. So he'll answer that door. He'll answer that door. He will. It says he will. And so that's the science behind all of this. So I hope you guys have a good time. It's 27 minutes for this. I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right? Best to you. I love you. Get out there and clean the hell out of you. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Did I tell you in the last thing that there was that demon, that monster that shows up with the 7 horns or 10 horns and 7 heads and all of that stuff, and that one of his wounds, he had a grievous wound, right? That's because he just got beat from her, right? One of his heads was just beat to death. That's what had happened, and it was grievous wound. And so he gave up that one, right? And so here he is. He's going to show up again in the 4th one. He's going to grow up in the 4th story, and and it'll be like they're going to talk about that grievous wound that looked like, and it was miraculously repaired, right? Because he's coming back out again. He's strong. We were told earlier. We were told during the Cain and Abel stories that one of the nations was going to be really powerful, and that was that one. And either one is actually really powerful over the other, but one shuts out heaven, and you may never ever see it ever again, ever. And so it makes God's world and God's power worthless, useless, absolutely. It's not going to creep in, do anything. It's just not. It's just not. You'll be strictly off of all your past lives and how good you were in those. You're just totally living off of your own karma. But if you can get in there and open up, then you know it's all a brand new day, fresh brand new day. It's a brand new day. These are all about days. It's about building you. It's about making you, and all these stories is about doing. And that's what I'm trying to get you to do go out there and give yourself a makeover, you know, and be truthful to yourself. Stop all that lying. You come right out to yourself and say, I know what you do, and I know this, you know, but still love yourself for it. Say, you know, I needed that. You know, I needed 40 years of smoking cigarettes, you know. I needed 35 years of being in the church. I needed that. I needed of serving mankind. I needed that. It says, surely, verily, this has to be done before you can find this place. So, you know, love what you were, love who you were, love that it might not be there forever, you know. And go up there and keep the feast. Best to y'all.